If life is an illusion, nothing other than projections of our minds that arrive from one's assumptions, whose catalyst are feelings from our intuitive minds that are not but mere splinters or subcells of the infinite consciousness matrix or our creator from which everything has sprung. Then the apocalypse, doomsday, Armageddon, which seem inevitable that humanity is now facing, is only a probability, not an actuality, for we are all God's seeds on a voyage through space and time, spirit and nature, and it is ourselves that are creators of our inevitable fate or us attaining an earthly paradise. Francis Bacon declared that human nature can overpower nature, so we can do away with God in a spiritual utopia in heaven, for we can have it right here, right now on earth, and live a life within a spiritual utopian existence or heavenly bliss. If all of humanity can get together mentally and politically, then they can replace the Machiavellian prince or sun kings from their reign and replace them with Plato's philosopher king, who is the harbinger and architect of love, harmony, justice, and world peace. Ironically, heaven is a reflection of our reality, or our minds, which are conveyed through our life's experiences, our culture, and our environments, hence, as on earth as in heaven, which is an eternal matter that is in our probable future. Spirit, humans, and gods. You know, spirit gives us life and life gives spirit their souls. We come from a timeless, formless living void, or a potential ocean of creativity and or energy to live our physical lives as spiritual humans that lift above social dramas and our fruitless lives and find our higher selves with love and freedom. And then, at physical death, we will not return back to the earth as a human. We will return home to heaven as an Etherian with our environment's souls and karmic journeys full and intact. As we evolve into individual and one free immortal spirits as one with all and everything, and we take on our divine roles as colleagues and co-creators with our creator of both the ethereal and the cosmic play. The Watchtower. The watchman dwells within the tower, the essence delves within the eternal flower connecting to the light force that is the catalyst and the path that leads to the promised land, where there is milk and honey aplenty. In short and refined with Occam's razor. In layman terms, we are guided and constrained by passion and envy that guides the human hand as we are controlled by our environment, passion and drives that forms our habits and beliefs or ego selves that are constructed and governed within the constraints of Piaget's cognitive mind model. And Immanuel Kant's ethical and social disciplines with his take on self-consciousness and his ethos on what is reality. The former suggests that we are like a needle picking up fluff as it plays on the record of life that gets more complex as on develops through the maturational cognitive process that is the development of our personalities. And the latter being his intake on reality in his land of pure reason, where we look in to find our center that is reinforced by our interaction with the other, such as our families, friends and other sociological acquaintances that consist of lords, individuals and bondsmen that are born or are the product of modern society. That along with Piaget's schematic process help form our self-consciousness and our view of reality, thus giving rise to our ethos and identity or the like, where we are all left gazing at the passing shadows on the wall in Plato's cave analogy that looks back at you in recognition with Kant's phenomenological plethora or a priori filofax of our view of reality, which we shape and form like the potter at his wheel with their vase which we gathered and filled with honey, like honeybees collecting nectar from the flowers to take back to the hive from the fruits of our life's journey. That stem from his religious restraints and his philosophical take on self-consciousness that we project from our subjective selves that he took from his work research and his genius faculties or psyche that is at the center of his awareness, where in a nutshell he believes we look in, out and then back to create our self-consciousness and our view and place in reality or our external world, for we are individual and one beings that look out and take in our reality. We are conditioned by our peers, fears and tears and the love of the land. You, the choice maker, holds the key to be the creator of humanity. This torment can be healed with the end of sin. So we can all in the future shine, like they do from the stars where we have been, then down to the earth from father to son and from son to father, that being both creator of life and at one with creation and one's creation and destination, so the future could shine within everyone. What is consciousness? Is it in the table in your kitchen, as panpsychists dictate? When you leave the room? Does it venture forth to expand as consciousness usually does? As the particle becomes the wave, like the thought experiment in Schrödinger's cat, where the lack of measurement or observation kept the cat in stasis, where it was both alive and dead simultaneously, and unlike the cat in Red Dwarf, it doesn't evolve into a human. It lays dormant until observation or a measuring device or consciousness occurs or is activated that converts it from a wave state into a particle state, like the findings in the light box experiment, which was the catalyst for the 3 scientists who won the Nobel Prize in 2022 that paved the way to a new paradigm or shift that had been a long time coming. Is the cigarette conscious as one smokes? Is the death of the cigarette, metaphorically speaking, a metamorphosis as it transforms from tobacco into smoke, like the soul as it departs the physical world for the ether as it completes its karmic journey for the current incarnation at the crossing, or the butterfly as it flies away in the sun? Was not the tree that became the table conscious? Was it not also the tobacco plant itself that was conscious? Panpsychist philosophy suggests that particles are conscious and fundamental, along with mathematics, that they make basic rational decisions on an atomic level that gives rise to creation, and not the a priori in Kant's phenomenological mindset. Further, they go on to proclaim that everything is conscious, both animate and inanimate beings or objects. The more complicated the organisms, the more complicated the consciousness. Basically, there are many forms and/or varieties of consciousness that are seen as constituents of the whole or infinite consciousness. Humans merely rise up from the earth and genetic cell division, where we form bodies and interact with the microcosm and the macrocosm, or our inner and outer worlds, to become self-aware within their social psycho-development. For instance, as the embryo grows and the child is born, consciousness separates itself from the whole and becomes self-aware, and as Piaget says, we are born into a maturational process where we resonate with our surroundings, and as we grow we develop our minds, which leads to self-consciousness that develops at puberty, along with the abstract mind, where we become self and global conscious and connect or emphasize with Geist, where we connect to the universal mind, spirit or culture with our right brains, in a true Timothy Leary space migration, intellect squared and life extension, or his smile hypothesis, that begins with primal man to the attainment of our higher selves, where we outgrow and give up our physical bodies to become divine entities that are akin and equal to our Creator, that begin with the young adult's abstract faculty, which reaches within and projects out its feelings with Ban the Bomb, Save the Whales, and To Go Green. So, is life consciousness that reflects back on itself, creating the notion of one's self-awareness, as Rupert Sheldrake suggests. But are you conscious, or is it an illusion? If real are your mind and awareness your consciousness, or was your consciousness forged from your upbringing with your bodies and earthly experiences, like an empirical chemical robot and nothing more? Are you conscious that your consciousness is not alone when you meditate or when you slow your mind, where it is open to one's intuitive faculties? If life is conscious and maturational, and as Jung suggests, with synchronicity and grace, with individuation, our egos and shadows correlate and clash with our physical environments, our perceptions and our thinking processes that experientially forge our wisdom, could one's consciousness transcend one's physical life and realms at the crossing or death? This has been proved time and time again from ghost stories, astral projection after death communications, or ADCs that arise from our intuition, or or a plethora of paranormal activities from crises apparitions to ethereal wisdom that is gained through the interaction of mediums and their sitters who communicate with the spirit world or still living post-mortal friends and relatives on the other side of the veil. That communicate and help to let go the past karma or unresolved psychological and sociological issues that were left behind for all concerned at the sitting for closure. Or communication from past life memories or far memories, past life hypnotic regressions and in-between life communication. If people have been here before in past lives, could there not be a future life, ad infinitum? If your consciousness has passed from body to body, that according to Deepak Chopra happens on a cellular level every 1.5 years, in 30 years you would have had 15 bodies, as we create and distribute our atoms with our every breath that gives birth to his pantheist or holographic ethos. So where is your consciousness stored, in your physical body or your soul, as it clearly shows that it is independent, symbiotic and transient with both the physical and astral bodies? The former when one is awake, and the latter when the physical body is asleep or dormant, while the other self gathers prana or spiritual nectar that it feeds the physical body in its return when the physical body awakes and begins its new day. Ultimately at the crossing we give up our bodies as we leave our souls at death from incarnation to incarnation, and the question remains: will it eventually outgrow the physical body and get absorbed by infinite consciousness as we complete our karma, becoming nothing more than a far memory of the whole? Simply put, do you live many lives to discover that everything you see is an illusion, and you discover that you are not alive at all, just a figment of God's personal divine cosmic play or supernal imagination? If consciousness can transcend our earthly bodies, is it safe to say, as I stated above, that it has been independent all along as it hopped from body to body in life willy-nilly, taking its personality and memories along with it as it creates a new vessel for its soul's natural progression? So if one day in the future, if it has the ultimate incarnation returning to state of pure love other than its personal karma, in the grand plan or scheme of things, what has been its sole purpose? Is it to discover a spiritual self that it has always had, or is it that its time down here is complete where infinity ends, or it's absorbed by the absolute which is beyond our current conception and comprehension? Is it that it leaves the earthly planes behind as it goes elsewhere on its spiritual journey? Does it retain one's personality like a lucid and rational ghost? In short, has it got a memory and a personality? So, is it safe to say that your personality was your soul's purpose, which ironically was brought into being or play by your recognition of its existence? So, is it your mind and your awareness, or your ego and your selflessness and carefree nature of your higher self simultaneously and harmonically working together that forges your consciousness or soul? And when you leave this world at the crossing and travel into the Etherian realms, is it not you or your soul that will initiate and culminate the journey? Let us say that everything is one, and that it divides itself with consciousness, and that division is you, me, us and we, as we shape our personalities or adjust to our life's journey. And when we complete our journey, do we take it back with us into the ether when we become an individual and one, free immortal beings with personalities intact that are as one with all and everything, like we do when we visit the astral planes when we sleep? The way. Where once there was an apple tree, there is an infinite orchard filled with you, me, us, and we. Where once there was life, now there is light and love. Where once there was hope, now there is joy and delight. Where once there was sadness, anguish and guilt, Now there is joy, love, and peace of mind to the hilt. And with our souls from journeys gone by we can see our growth. Our future potential like we have journeyed from past to present as individual and whole. Where once there was chaos and random behavior and long-lost innocence that governed our choices, now there is a probability of hope. Love and peace for the people's voice where one is never alone for all hearts beat as one in one world under the sun that eventually leaves to our home. But if the riddle is not solved and you are still singing your song with love in your heart, peace in your mind, walk on until the web has been spun. The truth. Sin and society are synonymous in nature, and it is self-evident that one must rise above one's drives and impulses that inhibit one's growth with the aid of contemplation and meditation that are forged with discipline and spiritual practices. Like the tennis star who controls their urges as they speed up their minds to keep up with the demands of the game, and so it is that meditation slows the mind down, and when it peaks it has no clouds obscuring it from the truth or God that opens the floodgates to one's intuition. God or infinite consciousness, or as it has been voiced in recent times, the divine self or the ultimate awareness that is within all and everything is God, and we dream reality into fruition to observe, reflect, become enlightened with competition and communication, and then rise above it. However, as God or the infinite consciousness cannot be calculated or measured by the scientific mathematical mindset or process to be objectified, for them God is an infinite conscious entity that does not exist. So it is that the blind leads the blind up a dead-end alley in a system that benefits its creators from birth to death. For we are not but slaves to the system or society, for we are guided or gilded and morally bound to find our place in the world and serve God through our work and worship and guilty pleasures. With our current government mindsets that are forever changing as they and everything are under the influence of incompleteness theory or the current popular belief as Geist or culture, as humanity dialectically marches through the anions of time that creates our modern understanding and values. Nevertheless, one must clear the path that connects to Spirit or God with our intuition and wisdom. Like Pinocchio and the Jesus tales elucidated with their esoteric teachings. Where the nails were detached from the cross and the strings cut from the puppet, and the higher self or the real boy awakes as one rises above one's selfish drives and impulses, gains wisdom and gets acquaintance with the higher self to lift above the social constraints of our mortality. The point of life is to harmonize both one's ego or selfish self that is fueled with evolutionary gameplay. Nietzsche's will to power, incompleteness theory, and Freud's pleasure principle, along with one's selfless, carefree, phenomenal, spiritually aware God self or Christ consciousness that could be attained through moderation as one slows the mind by simultaneously connecting with the disciplines and practices of self-control, meditation and mindfulness as one's body, emotions and higher self unite and form the soul with the aid of moderation. Meditation and mindfulness, basically, when the three centers unite and merge in the mind, body and spirit are as one, one becomes enlightened at reaching spiritual harmony as they walk the path that leads back home to heaven. We are in a wave of consciousness that rose before creation from a phenomenal conscious being or God to our meta-self-conscious egoistic human selves that are symbiotic and animated by the life force or spirit within. Then through unity and harmony between the two, the soul is born. And just like when Adam bit into the apple, giving humanity self-awareness that led to civilization and society, so it was that Jesus, who was the perfected embodiment of the soul, which was the perfect match made in heaven to bring the polarities together in perfect harmony, creating a vessel of both the spirit and the flesh as the God seeds fulfilled their purpose, which is to become co-creators of both the cosmic play and the spiritual realms of all existence. The journey. I personally feel both rationally and intuitively that I have a soul that was formed with the coming together of the ego's lower self to the intellectual and Christ consciousness higher self that ironically is the catalyst for the soul's very existence and spiritual purpose. All one has to do is to follow the path that is an inner and outer personal spiritual journey where one works on oneself through life's obstacles, trials and tribulations. And one's physical, psychological and social developmental stages as one ascertains and utilizes the personal signs, feelings and wisdom in life and has a complete understanding of what it is that lays beyond that guides us to the truth, respect and reason, which subsequently leads to the attainment of one's soul that is forged on the journey from the base root chakra or animal drives and impulses or one's ego consciousness to progress along the path on up through both the chakras and the inner and outer maturation of the body, mind and spirit, and connect to the light and the external world that are synonymous with God's cosmic spiritual journey, where it awakes in life as it gains light or awareness with the acquisition and development of the soul that, metaphorically speaking, is like genetic cell division in the physical planes, bringing fruition to the multi-self living structures that came with life. However, on a spiritual level, the one God or infinite consciousness became the many gods, which rose above all reality by returning home with their treasures, trophies, living environments and fulfilled dreams from their karmic lives within creation, adorning heaven or the Phaedra, which is where the wave peaks with the unity of the spirit. The flesh or the soul completes the wave's journey, and the soul, filled with love, peace and bliss, brings all their social or living experiences to create and adorn heaven. Basically, in a nutshell, we are on a 13.8 billion year cosmic journey, and our sun is halfway through its current life cycle that ends approximately in another 4.5 billion years. So as we progress from our basic drives and impulses through our inner and outer emotional turmoil and confusion, as we free our higher selves from the isolation with the recognition of its very existence, it is when one rises above sin by clearing the mind from white noise and inner and outer confusion by living within the act or discipline of moderation, contemplation and meditation that one attains one's clarity along with one's soul that ultimately leads back home. Originally or fundamentally, sin is lack of clarity to one's God self that can be gained with the aforementioned and developmental process above. Civilization is heaven, hell and purgatory, which once recognized and utilized leads to the self-realization of God or the infinite consciousness's ultimate self-realization or self-realized actualization within the creation of a peak potential paradise, eternal matter. God and ourselves are in the same wave of consciousness as man becomes God, and then God becomes man and man becomes God. For we and all living things are God or living flora and fauna, so we can with our spiritual development of our soul's journey ascertain the wave's peak potential that through us is to become individual and one free immortal spirits as one with all and everything. We are both the wave and the particle, energy and matter, potential or kinetic energy on a supernal cosmic and spiritual creative flux, where ultimately God's children, whom are called the Etherians or perfected souls, create and adorn the formless, changeless, timeless, infinite realms of the Phaedra or heaven as they bring with them their memories and environments or matter and existence back with them into eternity, thus creating eternal matter, which is symbolized by the cross within the circle in various spiritual practices and symbolic teachings. God, reality, life, awareness, self-consciousness and the soul lead the way or return of the source to form Eden by bringing all our good and bad selves to philosophize or compete. As we perform our good and bad deeds that are composites or constituents of our soul's journey, for both good and bad are integral within the wave where is both the source and its absolute peak potential. which was activated when it felt the recognition of itself at the center of its own existence, that with the recognition of its intuition that dissolves the ignorance that once cleared led to spiritual awareness that when once aware had a vision, premonition or precognition of spiritual utopia. Heaven or eternal matter, and our part in the play is to discipline the mind and reach harmony with one's environment by controlling the drives of the ego and lower self's needs and ambitions that ultimately harmonizes within its given reality. Be it 13.8 billion years of cosmic and spiritual harmony or fragments of God acting out a play with its divinity in Cosmic Realists and/or Donald Hoffman's headset, where we create, delete and recreate our realities in plank time when we look away and then back with our conscious awareness. Along with the presumption of that our reality is a probable simulation of a simulation, where dynamic entities dwell that are believed to exist beyond the subatomic particles and the superstrings at 10 to the power of -33 in 1 cubic inch or a second, as the infinite wave of consciousness eventually lands on the shores of heaven, bringing infinity into eternity in a land of pure reason. Then, once in harmony, one is inclined to seek out love and awareness or light both physically and spiritually in one's inner and outer journey. So God, through its recognition of its peak potential or heaven, not only gets to create it through the activation of our souls, but also dwells in it amongst the perfected souls, because their faith and belief in God and the creative divine nature self actualizes God's embodiment and/or existence, where it resides with the Etherians that got to create and populate eternal matter within an infinite influx of gods to help creation flow naturally and dutifully onwards and upwards, creating, evolving and living within its own self-realization of its primal thought, of its precognitive vision of heaven or self-actualized peak potential or eternal matter, where God and all its newfound afar-seen friends to create, adorn and populate eternal matter forever and ever throughout all eternity. The conclusion. In our everyday lives, one must control the greedy ego's natural selfish drives and impulses, and at the same time not get beguiled with the selflessness of one's own divine nature, where we unveil the truth with the disciplines that come with moderation, contemplation and meditation, to stop the insatiable needs of the ego and slow down and quieten the emotions, which clears the mind or opens one's self, or connects the lower physical self with the higher intellectual spiritual self, with the eradication of one's negative emotions and spiritual constraints, to resolve and liberate the polarities of the lower and higher self that leads to the finding of peace, unity and harmony of mind, body and spirit, and the eternal wave peaks and creates the entirety of reality as it washes and sculptures the infinite shores within eternity, and ultimately God and its divine friends go on to live, work, rest and play on the infinite and unfolding shores of eternity to live happily ever after. Mind, body and soul. Mind, the wave rises at the dawn of creation as it becomes aware of itself and its peak potential or perfection. Body, then reality is formed in the mind of God or the universe. Soul, When the wave peaks, the personal self and the higher self form the soul. As the infinite waves fall upon the shores of eternity, as the souls awake, they see the blue horizon that stretches out before them as they are welcomed home, as they create eternal matter. And the one God and its minions become equal and as one for all eternity, learning from their joint past karmic journeys, so that they can create along with their Creator one's hopes, wishes and one's dreams into their creation to form a better tomorrow. The All is it. The All stands for all and everything, the whole and the source, the Alpha and the Omega, the mind of our Creator. Then, you have the isness. Isness is what is, why is, where is, which is, who is, how is, and when is, in short the universe, which leads to the body in which life projects one's physical reality to create one's physical karmic journey. Then you have the soul, that is a combination of perfection and harmonic wisdom brought together by self-awareness, virtuosity, love, compassion, freedom, and uncommon wisdom. Where the Etherians, that are the embodiment of both the spirit and the flesh, whose essence leads the ego to the higher self, which is the pathway that guides the spirit back home to create and populate eternal matter. As the waves crash upon the shores of all eternity, the Etherians adorn, create and perfect eternal matter as the souls add form, substance, and populate the Phaedra or heaven as they dwell upon and within the majestic infinite shores of all eternity to live, rest, work and play and be happy ever after.